Are you actually ready this time? Or is your couch prepared?
My couch is hot and ready.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast Movie Show. That is a podcast that explores itself, explores ourselves, and explores the self in general. My name is Ty. I am one of your co-hosts.
And I am the number one dad, Distance, and your other co-host.
And tonight is the Metacast Movie Show about fatherhood. So, Fatherhood is a 2021 dramedy. It's directed by Paul Weitz, screenplay by Paul Weitz and Dana Stevens, and it is based on Two Kisses for Maddie, a memoir of loss and love by Matthew Loughlin.
Stars Kevin Hart, Alfre Woodward, Lil Rel Howery, Melody Hurd, with a tomato meter rating of 65% and an audience score of 72%. Eesh.
Yeah, I would have expected a little better scores on this. I'm surprised by those, honestly.
And it's Netflix, so we don't know about no money.
Exactly, yeah. No budget and box office information available. But Fatherhood follows a new father who's struggling to raise his daughter as a single parent after the sudden death of his wife. So going into this, I really wasn't sure what to expect. I heard some good things about it, but I really didn't know what I was in for. However, I do normally like Kevin Hart movies, so I had some good optimistic expectations. I thought that it was both incredibly touching and paired well with paired the touching side with like quite a few hearty laughs. I don't know. I think that someone might have been cutting onions close to me or something while I was watching this, but there was like something in both of my eyes for a lot of watching this movie. I'm not sure what was going on here, but the film does like a really great job of portraying like the beautiful high points of life as well as the crushing sadness of loss. I do think that it's a great story that was made even better by some really good performances. All around, I think Kevin Hart is just a hell of an actor. He was great in this. And I think that it was a fantastic role where he got to really show some of his range that you don't see in a lot of his comedic roles. I think this movie will mean a lot to different people. As someone who isn't a parent, I don't think that I got as much from it as a lot of parents would, but as someone who has parents, you kind of see it from the other side, I guess. So it's like, I feel like this movie has something that anyone can get something from. I think it does a great job of showing what sacrifices parents make for their children and how, even though it's tough on them and, they're undeniably giving things up for their children, that for them, it's 100% worth it because of the love that they have. So if I was going to have to give this a should you watch verdict, I do think I'm going to give this one a yes. I thought it was great. I thought it was entertaining. And then I do think that there is quite a bit that almost anyone could get from this. What about you? How do you feel?
Yeah. So the whole thing about the dramedy kind of genre label for this movie, I kind of feel like it relates to when I talk about my job and I make the joke that I'm a jack of all trades, which means I suck at everything.
Master of none, right? Is the other half of that?
Yeah. I feel like the drama part wasn't as much there as I wanted it to be. And then the comedy part wasn't quite as much there as I wanted it to be. I kind of feel like it was lacking in both ways. And I think that that's maybe just par for the course with this genre of movies. I thought that some of the comedy was just, it wasn't great comedy, and the drama was more. I don't think that the drama for me was because of the performances. I think that the drama for me was more internal. So I don't think that the film itself did a good job of stirring the emotions as a piece of art. I think that it was more just like internal stuff. It wasn't the stimulus of the film. It was just more me than the movie. I don't like the way that they portrayed the father character Matt in the film. Um, the memoir I haven't read, but you know, a memoir as a genre is something that someone writes about their own experience. I don't like the character Swan. I thought, and I complain about this archetype all the time. I thought she was a little too much of a manic pixie girl character. I thought Melody Hurd as Maddie was very good. She captured a lot of like attitude and kind of personality that a lot of kids I know have, and I mean she really made that show through on the screen. Lil Rel, the character he played, Jordan, was just a little over the top insensitive. I think that Matt's lines were a little too over the top, like avoidant denial kind of stage of grief, as opposed to like more the acceptance stage. I don't think they illustrated grief well in the movie. I think that they seemed, like I said, focused on certain parts of it. And I don't really know that by the end of the film that the characters had changed much. And being that this is based on a literary work that's someone's personal experience, there's no way that person didn't change. So I just don't think that they did a very good job of telling a story that seemed real to me. But once again, there are certain parts of it. Like, I'm not a parent, but there are children in my family. I vicariously have seen, you know, some of the experiences that my sisters have had with their kids, and I don't have a complete understanding of it. I could see why some parents might like the movie, but I think that what'll happen is people that are parents, you'll enjoy the parts that remind you of what it's like to have kids, and it might hurt a little bit for you to recognize what it's like to not have someone to help. But it's not a good movie. It's feelings you already have, and the film's not going to make that happen for you. So if it's not completely obvious, I got to give this one a no. I will say I like seeing people that are typically cast as comedians in dramatic films. I thought Kevin Hart did a good job for a comedian, but for a comedian. So yeah, I mean, I didn't hate the movie, but I don't think you should use your time watching it.
Wow. Well, we haven't disagreed this hard in a while. I cannot wait to explain why you're so wrong. So let's go ahead and get this little guy out here. He can spoil the movie. He'll let you know the wife dies. Yep, that's a spoiler. That's
Yep. That's spoilers.
All right, get out of here. No. But yeah, no, I do enjoy it when we disagree this much. That's kind of cool, because yeah, I thought this was fantastic. I really enjoyed. I haven't watched a movie in quite a few weeks that I enjoyed as much as this. Like, this was a movie that never once was I like found myself reaching for my phone. Never once was I bored. I had quite a few like hard laughs through it. Like, yeah, this was like, I really enjoyed my film watching experience. So yeah, start with some of your notes. What do you have going into the note section?
Really the first thing I wrote was you know, and like I said, I didn't hate the movie. I just don't think that it's one that people should spend their time on. I think that there's movies.
Well, you did say you don't think it's a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and there's plenty of terrible movies that I love.
Gotcha. Okay, true. That's
like fair. Expendables is garbage, but I love it. You know, Roadhouse is not a good movie, but it's one of my favorites. You know, I didn't hate the movie. I don't think it's a good movie necessarily. I just some of the concepts I kind of liked, I suppose. The first thing in my notes really is just a self-reflection thing, kind of. You know what? Let's just save that for the self-reflection section.
Okay.
The scene when because you know, it's like, I don't know. There's just so many stereotypes in the movie. There's like the douchey, insensitive friend. There's the angry mother-in-law that like thinks he's a complete idiot, and a moron and can't do anything right. And However, you know, that's something that
I gotta disagree with the friend thing, because I don't think that Jordan was douchey or insensitive at all. If that was the friend you're talking about, even.
Well, there's just if he were my friend, he would just be my friend. But I feel like the way that they portrayed him like, I mean, I would be friends with someone like him, you know, like, but the way that they portrayed him, there's these moments where they gave him this sort of insensitivity, like when they go out and you know, the way that I took it was, you know, they're going out and having fun as Jordan believes fun is, and he has good intentions, and so he brings Matt out, and they're going, oh, what you need, man? There's drinks, there's girls, there's drinks, there's girls. I mean, he doesn't really say that, but it's kind of, you know, that and then he's like, look, man, I know you haven't, you know, been out since Liz, and then it's just kind of like, you know what, dude, just don't. The way that Jordan says things and the way that Matt responds to him, I think that they kind of portray, or like the part where they're drinking beers after he spoilers. So if you're still watching and you don't want this to be spoiled, we're spoiling the fuck out of it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, spoiler Terry's out.
Yeah. 100%.
So the part where you know, he leaves Maddie with the in-laws, and then like, you know, comes back down, and you know, and Jordan's like, oh well, you know, hey man, whatever, none of us thought you could get this far, so but hey, look, at least you can always say that you did the bare minimum. I just really feel like that Lil Rel played the same character he played in Get Out, more or less.
True. Yeah.
Except in Get Out, he was a little more fun.
Okay.
But so I can see that there's a little bit of a typecast in his character. But I don't know. Like, I didn't, he was portrayed as somewhat insensitive. But the thing is like that my friends, the people that I choose to be friends with, would just be that way, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I feel like the way he is portrayed to the audience is different.
That is interesting, because I honestly, like, I got something completely different from that character, and I'm like, I won't really go into it until our self-reflection section later. But yeah, like, I thought he was incredibly sensitive in the right way, as that, and was like a great friend, and like that. Yeah, like that's interesting that like that character to be read completely different. But that's really cool, huh? I did think, okay, so one of the things I really loved in the very beginning, I thought it was great the way they cut like back and forth from the funeral to the birth scenes and kind of like interjected those back and forth. Like, did you think that was well done? Did you not like that intro? Like, how were your feelings on that?
You remember the scene in Elizabethtown where the guy that's getting married is like really, really drunk, and he and I forget the protagonist's name, the Orlando Bloom's character, and the guy says the thing about, you know, he's there because, you know, his dad died, funeral, and he's all like, oh, life and death right next to each other, and he starts freaking out.
Yeah.
I just think that the juxtaposition was okay. Like, I've seen that before. Like, thanks for nothing. Like, the juxtaposition for me wasn't really like, it wasn't valuable. Like, I don't think it was like creative filmmaking. No, like, but you know, to say like,
I thought it was extremely well done, and I thought that it balanced those scenes really well. And I thought, well, a lot of times when they do that, it's going to completely take away a lot of the emotional gravity from the scene where Liz actually died. But because of Kevin Hart's acting in that scene, it's like I still felt that. Like, it did not at all. Like, even though I knew it was coming, it was still just as emotionally resonant as if I had no idea. Yeah.
But because I'm not saying that when they did that in the film that they didn't do a good job of it. It's like heavy metal music, modern metal. There's a technique that I know you're familiar with called sweep picking.
Yeah.
That is done in so many songs, and sometimes people will just do like a quick little run somewhere, or sometimes they'll just sweep up and down, and you know it. Okay, like, you did sweeping arpeggios really well. Okay, like, good job, but we've all heard that before. Unless you can do it in a way that's different, or a way that's more creative, or adds more musicality to it, then I'm not impressed. Like, you know, that I think that they did that contrast well, but it's something that I've seen in films before. So it wasn't something that I felt like was I don't know, groundbreaking. God, I hate using that term, but yes,
That's what I was about to say, man. It's like if what you're looking for in movies in 2021 is like it's got to do something groundbreaking, like I think you're going to be disappointed a lot, man. Like there's a reason why we say that it's all been done before, right?
But for me, like I just I've always hated the you remember the old like announcer guy in the 90s, like if a comedy can't make you cry and if a drama can't make you laugh, then that's just kind of what I got from this movie. It was just a little too much. Like I wish that they wouldn't have done the comedy the way that they did. But the other thing is that for instance, like kind of circling back to the Jordan played by Lil Rel, they portrayed him as kind of a dude that just didn't know what the hell to say, which I guess is normal when somebody dies. Like when they're after the funeral and they're at I don't know if you call it like a wake, I suppose, or it was a wake before the funeral. I don't know. They're meeting up after the actual, and he's like, you got up there and you talked. And the thing is that's funny. It's funny, but it's also just the wrong thing to say, which is why it's funny, but it's also the wrong thing to say. So like I get an impression of the character, but it's still funny. But that's like the another term I don't like to use, but that's the slippery slope of a dramedy. You have to take these kinds of weird risks that kind of take away from the one side and add to the other.
Gotcha.
And it just ends up being a balancing act. And it's almost, maybe it's more just that I don't like the dramedy genre. That might have something to do with it. I mean,
I think it sounds like one of your main criticisms too is that it's like everything in this has been done before, which is, completely fair. Like that's 100. There's nothing that you're going to see in this movie that you haven't seen in something. Yeah, it is not going to break any new ground. Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I don't think that every movie has to do that. But this was one that, and maybe it's my expectations are the problem. This is one that I was hoping would, which is silly. That I expected that, and it kind of just didn't really, like do something new.
Actually,
I don't.
Now that I said that, I can't think of another movie that is really focused on a single father. I don't know how often that is done, which I did kind of think that was cool, that this was like, I think that single fathers get overlooked a lot. And I think that, like very often we talk about like the single mother whose husband left them or something happened like that, rather than like, a single father that is deciding to like raise the kid on their own. I don't know. I can't like, yeah.
Bro.
What did you Google? What'd you get?
Well, there's one I was thinking of already, and then I found a couple more. Pursuit of Happiness, man.
Pursuit of Happiness. Oh, with Will Smith?
Will Smith?
Yeah.
That's a single dad.
Okay.
In the Googling, I found My Girl.
Oh, actually, yeah. Barry, thank you. Yeah, you were just putting out Pursuit of Happiness. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, you just said it. Cool. Yeah. Nice. And then there's a couple that I didn't think of. Signs. Mel Gibson's a single dad in Signs.
Of course, hold on.
Signs
is
actually
horrible.
Had to talk about how. Come on. We also talked about who else isn't breaking ground?
Yeah.
M. Night Shyamalan.
You cannot bring up an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Come on. That's right. But like,
About a Boy is a movie where Hugh Grant pretends to be a single dad.
True. But I guess what I'm saying though is even like I think Pursuit of Happiness is the best example. But isn't that even like at this point over a decade old? I was meaning more like,
yeah, it's pretty
we tend to like redo tropes, and it's like for, like there's a lot of tropes that are redone a lot recently, where that's one where it's like, I can't think of like within at least the past few years where that's been a topic that has really been brought up in film. So I did like that. Yeah. I think that was kind of like, again, not new ground, but at least kind of like addressing something that hasn't been just a constant thing in media, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like there was at least one single dad in, Love Actually, but once again, these are all older films. So no, I mean, in recent works, I don't know that I've seen movies that have focused on a single dad. But I mean, the other problem I have is, okay, question: did you see Bright with Will Smith in it?
Yeah.
We're on like the Will Smith kind of theme. So the one person, I believe she was an elf.
Yes.
I believe she was a Bright. So she was able to like use a wand that she could actually hold a wand without bursting into flames or dying or whatever the fuck happens. If you haven't seen that movie, by the way, don't waste your time. Okay, Ty, should you watch Bright?
I liked it. Yeah.
Okay.
If it's
it was another one of those good concepts I felt like could have done better, but I can tell you why I hated the movie so much.
Okay.
I do not like the fact that they portrayed that female elf as so helpless the entire film. I hate it when movies paint female characters as being this damsel in distress who are chiefly waiting for a male to come rescue them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that. I don't like it when females in films are portrayed as individuals that are ditzy and don't know anything useful and just can't stop fucking talking about purses or whatever. That shit drives me up the fucking wall. I can't stand it.
Yeah, when in reality, in that movie, she was like one of the most powerful people. Like, yeah, it was
exactly.
Kind of, yeah.
And every time I see that, I'm like, God damn it! Like, get up and do something. Like that's like I enjoyed the social commentary in Bright, like the sort of like the racism between the humans and the orcs, and then the elves, and everybody has these prejudices against each other. That was an interesting like social commentary. But outside of that, I mean, that's the thing that drove me nuts about the fucking movie. Like, she doesn't do anything. You know, I didn't like. I feel like in Indiana Jones, the second film, the female lead could have had the potential as a character to be much stronger than she was portrayed as. I don't like that. It drives me up the fucking wall. So all this to say that I don't like it in movies when males are portrayed as bumbling idiots that can't get anything right. Jordan can't say the right thing. Jordan doesn't understand feelings. He keeps saying the wrong stuff to Matt at the wrong times. Matt can't figure out something as simple as changing a diaper. It's easy. It really is. I honestly figured it out the first time. I mean, it's not that hard. It's like it's not, and just, I understand the difficulty. I understand that when you're stuck in this situation, you thought you were going to be with this person that was going to like be there. You were going to help each other. They're not there. There's all this overwhelming shit that you have to like get sorted out. And the other thing is like, I've heard numerous parents say, you're not ready to have kids ever, and you don't know what you're doing no matter what. So, I mean, I've had enough, actually, maybe 100% of all the parents that I've spoken to about that have said that.
That was even in the movie when Matt's talking to Mike, Mike says that like, what was it, like not knowing what to do is a father's specialty or something like that.
And Mike was a cool character. I really liked him. He was one of the things that I liked, his kind of temperance of all the other characters. It was interesting to have him in there.
That is so weird though, that like I did not get that feeling whatsoever from any of the characters. Like I felt that like Matt was incredibly capable, that Jordan was great and not a bumbling. I did not get the like quote unquote bumbling idiot feeling from any of the characters in this whatsoever.
When he walked into that single parents conference, and they said colic, did she catch the colic from me? I'm like, bro, seriously? Like that.
I did not know what colic was until I had to pause it and Google it during that scene.
We have the internet.
Yeah, but I didn't know.
I've heard a bunch of people at work talk about it.
I don't know. I guess I am also a bumbling idiot. I fit right into that because I had no idea. I thought that it would have been something like a contagion. Yeah.
And perhaps it's like maybe just like where I end up. Like at one point I was outside of the workplace, just taking a quick break, and 4 moms were out there talking about like the trauma of childbirth, like stitches and staples and all this shit. And like, I was fucking horrified. But it's like, I mean, I understand these things to be real. I mean, it's stuff that, like whenever someone has a baby, like I hear people talking about their experiences with their kids, trying to like pass on some wisdom, I guess, to help other parents. And oftentimes at work, I'll hear some of the older women that, have kids like our age talking about things like that, like colic and inner ear problems and all kinds of stuff. Some of which is pretty gross to most people.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But life is gross, isn't it? But I I didn't like that in particular. And to me, like, I relate portraying males in films that way, which, I mean, I got that in a couple scenes, not the whole movie, but I got that in a couple scenes. It bothers me just as much as portraying female characters like in that sort of damsel-y kind of light. I don't like certain ideas like being like sort of, I don't know, perpetuated, I guess. Just that somehow he was clueless. Now, it does make sense that if you are a person that's never had long hair, you won't understand how to do someone's hair that's long.
True.
You know? So like that kind of made sense that, you know, he wouldn't understand what to do with Maddie's hair when she gets older. Because it's something he's never had to deal with. Now, if he was someone that had like a type of hairstyle that required a lot of care, like even like having locks is something that, you know, I think would prepare you for, you know, dealing with long hair or something like that. But you know, just little things like that are just something that bothered me. I realize I sound very ranty right now. But,
yeah, very. And like, and honestly, like, I think that so much of what you're saying like contradicts itself, because like you talked about earlier, like the characters didn't grow. But then, I mean, Matt went from someone who at the very beginning could not understand anything, had to go to this parents meeting to ask for help to understand even what colic is, to then someone who refused to give his kid away to his in-laws and took her back under his roof because he wanted to be the parent that he knew that he could be. Like that to me, I think is growth.
Well, I think a lot of it was also perhaps maybe I felt like they didn't grow because I thought that the plot was predictable. Like, true, I mean, you knew that was going to happen.
Yeah,
so
100%. Yeah.
To me, like, I guess maybe it's the way that I define or perceive growth in a character. And once again, like it's a memoir. So like it's a little different, you know, to like critique it as a story. But, you know, I didn't read the memoir. Maybe I should have. That probably would have been a good idea now that I think about it.
It's probably better than the movie. Aren't the books always better than the movie? Like
almost always, except for Moby Dick.
They made a book out of that?
Yeah. Believe it or not. We recycle that reference often. It's a favorite of both of us.
It is, yeah, it's definitely a favorite.
Maybe you haven't seen Airheads, featuring Adam Sandler, Brendan Fraser, and Steve Buscemi. I recommend it. It's terrible, but you should watch it.
Is it Buscemi?
Oh my god, I don't know.
I've always said like Buscemi, but now I'm questioning myself. I have no idea how to pronounce that gentleman's last name.
We're both questioning ourselves now. I've never said it differently, and now I'm wondering if I've just said it wrong this whole time.
Can we just go with like the great Stevie B from this point forward?
Yeah, Stevie B. The great Stevie B.
The great Stevie B, yeah.
Yeah. You know, maybe it's just kind of my perception of growth, because typically when I watch a movie, when I think of a character as being developed, it's something that's more profound, I guess, than I would imagine. Like when I see how a character changes, if it's in a way that I wouldn't have thought to write it that way.
Okay.
And that's the reason why I dislike coming of age films so much, is because that character arc is predictable. Yeah. It's the same arc.
Yep. You know exactly where it's going. You can predict it. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And I'm not saying like we talked about Elizabethtown. I mentioned it earlier. That's a coming of age film that I actually liked. Why? Mainly because the humor is dark. And Alec Baldwin's in it. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons to like that movie that save it from that genre.
So hold on. If Matt's boss was Alec Baldwin instead of Paul Reiser, do you think you would have liked this more?
What? No, Paul Reiser was perfect.
Okay, he was pretty good. Okay, so hold on. I did. It's not my favorite line. Hopefully not your favorite. Well, it can't be a favorite line because it's a two-part line. But whenever he was like, "Some man have breasts," and he was like, "I'm gonna let that go because you're grieving." Like, he obviously took that as him talking about himself. Like, I thought that was fucking hilarious. Like, Paul Reiser's a gem, man.
That was funny, and I mean, he fit that character really well. And I like it how some actors that they've aged have filled other types of roles, and I think that Paul Reiser has a different kind of role that he can fill now, and I think he did that one really well. And same with Hugh Grant. If you saw Death to 2020, that one kind of silly British scientist guy, that's Hugh Grant. A lot of people didn't even recognize him. Dude, please tell me you've seen Death to 2020.
No, I haven't. Is it? Do I need to see this?
Okay. Samuel L. Jackson. Done.
Yeah, I'm sold.
There you go.
Oh my
So,
God,
yes.
it's a mockumentary by the Black Mirror
Yes.
creators. Okay, yeah,
Yes.
I'm very into that. Okay.
Oh my God. Phoebe from Friends. What's her name?
Lisa Kudrow.
Yeah, Lisa Kudrow is also in it.
Okay, I'm gonna have to watch this. Yeah.
It's very funny. It's a very funny mockumentary. Oh, dude, I feel so bad for not telling you about it when it came out. It's very funny. I really, really enjoyed it.
We should have done an episode on it. I really, yeah, dude, I'm excited to watch that.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you think of it. It's great, but I think that Paul Reiser fit that really well. And look, I'm always talking about casting on here, sure. And that is one thing I think they did well. Everybody that they cast was perfect for the role they were in. Everybody.
I think the casting
Oscar was perfect. Mike was perfect. Everyone. The boss, Paul Reiser, perfect. Everybody was awesome. DeWanda Wise, who played Swan, perfect.
Yeah.
Alfred. I think it's pronounced Alfred Woodard. Perfect for Marion. Like everybody, they knew what they were doing when they picked those people. And I think that's one thing that they did well. That for what they did in the story, I think they picked the right actors. So just because I said and this happens a lot. Like just because we say that we think someone should watch the movie doesn't mean it's perfect.
Oh yeah.
And just because we tell somebody that we don't think they should doesn't mean that the movie was garbage all the way around. Except for Awake, that movie was garbage.
Yeah, sure. I'll agree with you on that one. Yeah. Yeah, because I definitely don't think this movie was perfect. Yeah, I mean, I'll talk up and down about how much I enjoyed watching it, but yeah, there was definitely a lot of problems, which I think you've done a great job summing up quite a few of them. Where it is like. It is just following the same formatting you've seen in a lot of previous dramedies. Like there's nothing that's going to surprise you in this. It's going to be like, all right, this kind of scene's going to happen next. Yep, there it is. Like, all right, I bet this is going to happen. Oh, yep, there it is. Like,
yeah, and that's and not that, and it's just the way that people do the predictable scene for me. And there were a couple instances I did watch this movie with my significant other, and there's two scenes where the actor looked at the crew. And you could tell the actor was looking at the crew.
That's funny. I didn't catch those. That's funny.
Yeah, I don't know who cast those toddlers, but because there were several. Because I think there's reasons. There might even be legal reasons, but there's definitely ethical reasons why you can't have the same baby in front of the camera all the time. That's just not good for children. So you can tell there's different kids in different scenes.
That's why Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen were cast as the baby in Full House, because they were able to switch them out and keep shooting whenever and have one of them rest while the other one was on camera. Yep.
That's a point that when we were watching it that my girlfriend made, was that she mentioned that they're probably twins. And I, for some reason, I don't know, maybe I just wanted to remove Full House from existence in my mind.
I don't blame you.
So I don't know, man. There's a scene where the playground scene, that toddler definitely looked at a crew member, and that's just terrible. It's hacky. I certainly hope that kid never works in this town again. During the slap,
cut to either Christian Bale or Tom Cruise yelling at the baby for fucking up a take. Like,
you're fucking amateurs, amateurs. But yeah, we called it Slapjack, that game that you play with. I played it with all the kids, basically every kid that I know. Where you slap the hands or whatever. Yep. Maddie does look at a crew member during that scene.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
I mean, I'm mainly saying this in jest because they are kids. The one kid's a toddler. They don't even understand that they're in a movie. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I'm saying that in jest. But there was a moment where I actually paused it, rewound it. It was like, look at that. Do you see that? Yeah. Do you see that? That baby just looked at a crew member. That's terrible.
That is bad acting. That's 100% just bad acting.
Yeah, but I mean, it's okay. It's a baby. But how did that get past editing? I don't know. Maybe it was the best take. And sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
They could have CG'd that baby's face back to where it needed to be. Like they just didn't put enough into the CG budget of this movie.
I mean, how much would that have cost? Not much. What, $500? Maybe.
Yeah, probably. You could find someone on Fiverr Pro to do that for a couple $100.
Yeah. Hell, you could do it, right?
I don't know about that. I don't know if I could do that much, but.
Okay.
I would accept the job and then realize how much I've dug myself into a hole and then stress over it.
But there was some stuff in the film that I liked. I found the scene particularly And I'm not saying Kevin Hart didn't show his range. He did. I mean, there's plenty of stuff he did that was outside of what he normally does, and he didn't do a terrible job. The scene with Matt and Swan, when they kind of the weird sort of breakup scene. I think that the amount of confusion that Kevin Hart as Matt portrayed on camera was spot on.
Yeah.
The weirdness of being at a place and remembering a thing and not wanting to remember the thing and having these thoughts that you can't get out of your head. There's nothing you can do about it. And there's someone that you care about that you've met who's new, but then the guilt of this new person, but then you remember the old person, and even her name is the same. And
that was a little on the nose. That was okay. So I was gonna say that things in this movie didn't surprise me. That part did. That they really just had her have the same name as like I thought that was kind of
There was an occasion where I was at this was probably 10 years ago. I was at a bar and I with some friends, and I met a girl that was very cool. We talked for like maybe 10 minutes. And then I finally was like, oh, hey, I'm distance. It's like, well, what's your name? And then they told me their name, and it was the same exact name of my ex-girlfriend that I'd broken up with like a month ago. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. And I like walked. I was like, guys, we got to go. Like, why? We just need to fucking go. Like,
I was about to say that it surprised me that the movie did that, because that wouldn't happen in real life. And I'm glad you immediately showed me that yes, it does. And then also I realized in the middle of me saying that this is based off of a memoir from real life that probably really happened to the dude. I bet it wasn't like something they just made up for the movie. That was probably like actually real. Yeah.
But once again, like for the small amount of camera time she got, I thought DeWanda Wise did a very good job in that scene, because it was the amount of also confusion, but then it's almost, is perverse the right word? Like a strange type of understanding you have for the person, even though you hate it, you get it, but you're confused. And you want to be around, but you know that it's better if you're not, but you still want to. And you know that part of them wants you to still be around. And like that scene was great. I thought they did that really well. Once again, I wish Swan wasn't so flat in the story. I don't think she was completely flat. There was some like depth to the character, but I wish they'd done a little more with her. She's not 100% like manic pixie girl archetype, but it was just close enough to it that it kind of irked me a little.
Yeah, I thought she was great in a lot of scenes. The scene that obviously wasn't a setup, it's not a setup. I promise, it's not a setup. Like that, I thought they were great in that. Like both like the chemistry that she had with Kevin Hart, like realizing like, oh, you're Matt, you're why I'm here. Okay, like I thought that was well done. Like
They did have some good chemistry there. I agree. I mean, they both did that scene really well together. I mean, I did really. I thought that the scene where he's trying to explain his girlfriend to Maddie and all she wants is candy.
Yeah. Can I have a lollipop?
I like that. And once again, like, I mean, we have watched the last few movies we've done, like maybe like the last handful of films we've done have featured very young actors that I thought did a great job.
Yeah, true.
And Melody Hurd that played Maddie. Yeah. I'm not sure if she's been in anything else. I'm going to look that up. But I think that she has promise that she was in Them. What? No way. She was in Them.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was the daughter in Them. Yeah.
But I think that she has some promise, like later on. I think that if she continues acting, I think that she will have some promise in a career. I just liked the way that she did the character, and if I didn't mention it before, like that's another great cast. I mean, she was good for the role.
The poker face scene, like she's like. You could tell she's a good actor. She's able to just like command the scene in a way that like even when it's kind of like all eyes on her, like she's able to just like hold her own and do her shit. Like I thought that was
it was impressive. I mean, and I think that it would be difficult for a kid not to break character in a scene like that. So like it's a lot of professionalism at a young age. and like I thought Oscar was a hilarious character. I think he was a great complement to the other characters in the film.
Yeah.
I like the dynamic,
He was
between him and the other characters.
I liked him. In my opinion, like he was almost just a little too like what you were saying. Like a lot of the characters are just kind of over the top of the archetype they're supposed to be. And it's like
he was the cringy.
Yeah, and it's like he's the dude that it's like, okay, can you say one thing that's not weird? Like, can you just at least have one line that lets people know like how you actually have friends, rather than like, because like he was so off-putting the entire time that it's like, why are these people around you? Why you're married? You convinced someone to marry you? Like, how did that happen?
I thought he fit well in the sort of meetup scene, like the setup scene. I think that what he said there was awkward, but I feel like it fit well in that scene. But outside of that, a lot of it was over the top awkward. But I think he was like a good. I don't know. I thought he was just like a good compliment to the cast, just as kind of being there as an accessory.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily like on his own would he be great. But man, can we just, I do want to say something that I think is important here.
Okay.
Man, Kevin Hart can cry, dude.
Yeah. Kevin Hart, dude, he can just act like crazy. Like the fact that, that's what I was talking earlier about, like somehow, even though I knew it was coming, the emotional resonance of the scene where he loses Liz is still there, and it's all from his performance. Like if I could read that script, I could watch any number of other actors do that, and I would not have felt nearly the same as when Kevin Hart did it. And then directly afterwards, the way he's just able to show that insane balance that he must have, the Matt, the real Matt must have had to have feeling. Felt to dish. Yeah, thank you. That insane balance that the real Matt must have felt when it's like you've got this crazy amount of joy balanced with literally losing your wife on the same day. Like here's your new baby, but by the way, you're also like your wife just died. Like I don't understand how the human mind is able to experience both of those and balance that in any way. And I think that like Kevin Hart portrayed it in a way that like it made sense to me when I don't think it ever would.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I mean, when you contrast Kevin Hart's performance, and that was it. I was looking it up just now. I think it was Mystic River, where Sean Penn. I think it centers around him and a detective.
I remember that movie. Yeah.
His daughter's like found like dead in a river, I think. And there's a scene where he's like, the cops are holding him back. It's like, "Is my daughter down there? Is my daughter down there?" And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me, Sean Penn.
Yep.
I was like, what are you doing, dude?
And he's a good actor too.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
But he like, there's been a lot of movies I really like Sean Penn in, and there have been a lot of movies I haven't. I think he's done a couple cool like biopics. Is that Harvey Milk? I think was the name of the politician.
Just Milk, but yeah, he played Harvey Milk in Milk. Yes,
I liked him in that. He was garbage in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which was kind of the point, and he spent his entire career trying to live down that movie. There's a lot that he's done well.
Let's not talk about I Am Sam, please. Let's just skip that.
Hey, Tropic Thunder made fun of that movie for
good reason.
For almost 2 hours. Yeah, I mean, for very good reason, in fact. But it's just, but the way that he does that scene is so like, that Sean Penn does that scene in Mystic River is kind of like, dude, how many takes did they have to do? And how did this one make it into the movie? Like I can't even imagine how bad the other ones were. Yeah,
compared to like a similar situation was Kevin Hart getting shoved out of the room while Liz was dying. Like the whole that's my wife. Like he did that in a way that just felt much more real, not someone practicing for their high school monologue, basically. Like, you know what I mean? Like, all right, buddy. Like, I understand the scene's supposed to be emotional, but let's bring it down into human emotion, please. Like,
yeah, it's like, is your mom sitting across the room with the script helping you learn this? Like, is that what you're doing? But the way that the moment he finds out that that his wife is dead. The way that he does that scene, I think, is something that is it requires a lot of skill as an actor. And once again, it's that, was it Christoph Waltz that said it? I've talked about several times, where it's not your job to feel something as an actor, it's your job to make the audience feel something.
Yeah.
And when Kevin Hart does those scenes, I'm like, bro, this guy can fucking cry. Like, wow. Like, I am very impressed by this. But like, once again, the comedy to me just diluted that. Like it added like, it took away so much from it. But that's the thing. Like, I respect the fact that making a dramedy, that it's a challenging genre. I get it.
Yeah.
But it can be done well.
Yeah.
It has been done well.
Yeah.
But this one just, okay, this is a silly thing to say, but it might be silly. I don't know. When I was in marching band in high school, that's right, we would do really hard drill. Like, the stuff we did was difficult. The formations, the movements, it was all really, really difficult. When we go to compete, we would get beaten by easy, clean drill. And it used to drive our band director crazy. She would lose her shit about how they're not even trying anything hard and they're beating us on easy, clean drill. The fact that we're doing something difficult gets us no points. Like, it's easy to do something, it's easy, perfect. But when you try something difficult, they just look at you and think, oh, well, no respect. So, I mean, I like, in the same way, I respect for filmmakers for making a movie in a challenging genre like this. But it's real fucking hard to do.
True. Yeah. One of my favorite parts of the movie. What did you think about the whole like Lucky Jim and how it was like? It's like, hold on, you let her watch Lucky Jim, like in the show that she worked on, and then they watch a little bit of it, and she's like, "Daddy, they were about to wrestle." I know they were.
That was pretty funny. And I wonder, like, not being a parent, I wonder how many occasions that thing happens, like where you think something's okay, and then your kid's like, oh, wait a second, oh no. I'm sure it happens a lot.
Now with cartoons, there are so many like adult or late teen cartoons that are like, I mean, there are so many of those that you could just like, unless you actually sit down and watch it, you have no idea. You just see animation that looks like it's for kids, and it's like, oh, sure, yeah, they can watch that. And then you watch some of Aqua Teen, you're like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if you noticed, I've been watching Aqua Teen lately. Like, I don't know if either of you guys knew, in our group text chat, I quoted a weird line from Aqua Teen recently.
That may have gone right over my head.
It was the episode with old Drippy.
Oh, no, I definitely caught that. Okay. Yeah, yeah. For some reason, I thought that it may have been like new Aqua Teen you were watching that I'd never seen, but yeah, I definitely caught the old Drippy reference. Okay.
Yeah, it was the old school shit. Yeah, but yeah, I feel like I monopolized most of this episode bitching about this movie.
No, not at all, dude. I
mean, I've had good things to say about it. I just,
I think we had a good conversation about it. Yeah.
Do you remember the scene where I think he is with his in-laws, not his parents, and he says he's gonna grab some drinks with his friends.
Yeah.
But he ends up going to the bar to drink alone.
And then go to visit his mom and talk. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So there's a thing that I hope is not your favorite line that I want to talk about, and it was the hair scene. That I liked the way that the comedy aspect of the line was great, where he tries to do his daughter's hair and she looks in the mirror and says, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And he's like, I think it's a new look, a new hairstyle that could catch on if given a chance.
Yeah, that was good.
That was really funny, and that's the thing. Like, if I can isolate the scenes, then I like a lot of the scenes. But when you put it together, I just feel like things take away from other things. And
the put together, it isn't larger than the sum of the parts. That it's like almost like the parts as like individual scenes or as short videos are actually better to you, but then once you put it together, it actually takes away from each other or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the scene where he punches the guy in the haunted house.
Yeah, that was funny. That got an actual laugh out of me. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. And then I guess his daughter wasn't freaked out and just got upset with him because he punched a clown. Like,
I
That
did
was
like
funny.
that whole scene at the carnival, or I guess fair is probably the better word for that. But like how he was the one like on the ride that was screaming, like, you know, it's like every single part, like the haunted house, all the rides, like he was not handling it nearly as well as she was.
Yeah, I mean, and I think but you know, it's like I've talked about that particular thing. I've talked about this with a lot of like people that have kids at work, and like kind of relating to my childhood too. Like that, you know, it's like when you're young, like you just don't have this concept of things being dangerous or scary.
True.
So some things like that just don't occur to you. Like, you know, in the movies, like some horror films where like there's the child that like has this kind of like sweet, like innocent, naive idea of the whatever haunting, whatever. Like
Yeah.
in the was it the first Conjuring where like there's the guy that you can only see in the mirror? It's like you just listen to the music box and you'll see him standing behind you.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like an innocent thing to the kid. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's like, dude, that guy trying to kill you.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
what are
true.
you?
It's like until you understand how dangerous the world actually is, a lot of things can just seem kind of friendly. And then it's like, but to someone who knows more about the world, it's like, nah, that shit's not good.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, like there's been occasions where I've sister, if you're watching, sorry, it was good intentions and nobody got hurt. My nephew, we were riding bicycles together. Like I was visiting my sister, we were riding bicycles together on like this big trail where they live, and there's this really sandy portion, and my nephew was like, hey, let's ride in the sand, it'll be great. I'm like, that is a terrible idea, we will crash, I don't feel like getting sand in my shoes.
Yeah,
It's like, no, we should do it, it'll be cool. It's like, you know what, let's go.
Yeah.
It was sand, you know, you're not going to get hurt on sand. Just to be like, look, bro, like, let's do this, and then we can live the consequences. We both busted our asses in the sand.
Yep.
And I got sand in my shoe anyway and in my hair. But we got cleaned up enough to where my sister didn't know that we'd ridden our bicycle somewhere where we shouldn't have. So
I think that's one of the lessons in this that I forget if it's Mike that says it or what, but like one of the biggest things as of like letting go, where it's like sometimes you have to let a kid, I mean, okay, not something that's going to kill them, but like you have to let them make the mistake and learn from the consequences rather than just always tell them, oh, that's not something you want to do, or that's, you know, like, yeah, you try to ride in sand, you realize like, first of all, how tough it is if it's not wet packed sand. Like first of all, you're just gonna hurt your fucking legs trying to pedal the ridiculous amount that you're trying to in sand, and then yeah, it's also not stable at all, you're gonna fucking crash probably. But
and sometimes you just, you know, yeah, you gotta let it happen.
The lived experience is so much more than hearing it over and over again.
Yeah, there's a song by the band, I think it's Terror. They have a song called Always the Hard Way. It's a little, you know, they're that tough guy hardcore thing, but you know, they've it's still like that they're trying to say like, you know, a lot of lessons have to be learned the hard way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was curious to know about symbolism in the movie. Actually, let me tell you something first, and I want to compare notes with you on it, and then I want to ask you about the thing.
Okay.
So the scene where he gets the jewelry box out, is like, you can have whatever you want. I looked at the girlfriend. I said to her, I know how I would have written this scene, which she hates when I say. I think she hates watching movies with me even more than she did before because I review movies now.
Yeah. Now
so
you
like,
pay more attention to horror. You think about it in a different way. Like, yeah.
And I say to her, like, I know how I would have written this. And lo and behold, it went exactly the way I would have written it. Who would have thought? See, that's the thing that I was talking about, where it goes where I expect it to.
Yep.
How did you feel like about the sentiment attached to the necklace?
Personally, I don't have any sort of like connection to it or can't think of it in any sort of way that matters. I don't know if I've ever had someone that I've lost and had any sort of sentimental attachment to an object. I'm attached to the memories I have of someone, and that those memories are ethereal. They're not something that is at all tied to a physical object. But I know that a lot of people aren't the same as me. So when I saw that, it didn't strike me as like silly or not tied to reality or not something that a lot of people would feel, but it is not something that I was able to identify with or relate to on a personal level.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is that with objects like that, I don't usually attach sentiment. To me, it's more like painful. Like to me, it's usually the especially when it's involved in like losing somebody. It's not ever a positive feeling. It's always something that kind of like hurts a little.
I could see how it could be positive to the daughter that had never really met her mother. Like to Matt, it seems like it would be almost a painful thing of having it physically there. But like to the daughter, that could be like this thing that you're attached to. That like, wow, my mom wore this that I never got to like that. I could see, but it's still not understanding it from a personal level at all.
Right. And for the daughter, I mean, that could have been any piece of jewelry in there.
Yeah.
But it just so happened she picked the one that was, special to him in some way. But I will say there's one bit of character development that I kind of liked because I saw how it felt real to me. That there's this whole thing, and we hear it all the time, what they would have wanted.
Yeah.
And
that was used a lot in this,
because to me, and sorry, religious people, to me, what they would have wanted is kind of like what God wants, because that can be realistically whatever you want it to be. It's whatever you think, and you can kind of make that whatever you want. And even like to redeem myself in the eyes of anybody who is a deist, there's this idea that you can sort of feel, or you have some intuition of like what you think God's trying to tell you, but you could be wrong. So I mean, you might be telling yourself the wrong thing when the reality is that the thing that you put your faith in is actually telling you something different. Just to kind of don't want to alienate anybody.
However, where my mind went to immediately when you said like what she would have wanted, my mind went immediately to the school, which I think that was something they actually talked about. Not that it was like, oh, this is where I think she would have wanted you to go. It's like, oh no, this is where she wanted you to go. But it was used later in the movie in other ways where it was like, oh yeah, this is what she would have, or even like, I mean, the doctor caveated it with, like, I hope you don't mind me saying so, but your wife would be proud of you. It's like, well, how do you really know what she would, it's like, I guess, sure, maybe because he's doing a good job, like you could say that, but at the same time, it's like, you're speaking for someone who's dead. Like, what do you mean?
Right.
Like, how do you know that?
Yeah, I mean, you could make like kind of the what's the term? You could make the sort of deduction that because these things appear to be positive traits, I think that this person would be proud of you. But once again, it's like you don't really know the person, but the thing is that it's like with the school, and that's kind of what I was thinking of, was with the school, it's what she wanted, but you are looking at a person that no longer exists, that didn't have the time to get the additional information that's available now.
Yes.
So if she really were alive, would she still want this because she wanted it before? And even then, like, sometimes you just have to make the decision. And sometimes people will, and I'm not saying that this is what was done in the film, it wasn't, I don't think, with any of the characters. Sometimes people will use that as a way to manipulate others.
100%.
Like to use the attachment to the memory of somebody to say this is what they would have wanted. But the reality is that there's a point that he got to where he asked himself the question, Matt asked himself the question, what decisions am I making, and who is the decision best for? And I think he started to realize that, that this is now, there's things that I know that Liz couldn't have known, that sometimes you just have to kind of do what you determine is the best. And as more information becomes available to you, change that approach if you have to.
Exactly.
Like, and to me, like, it's very cool the way that, like, I'll see friends or family members interact with their kids and then see how what they do changes. That they start to figure out like what works best and which things really are best, and how that changes as you mature and they mature. And it's really cool to watch people adapt in those relationships. So it's like when you attach yourself to the memory of someone and what that person would have wanted, it doesn't really allow you the ability to change when you're constantly giving yourself this idea of honoring someone's memory by pretending that they could want something right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like you're saying, like people that are alive have the ability to learn new things and change their mind. But it's like, yeah, when you're talking about someone that's dead, it's like, okay, yeah, like that is what they wanted at this one point, and unfortunately, their memory is now crystallized in that. That does not mean that is what they would currently want. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
Oh, go ahead.
But that's just something that a lot of us do, and I personally am trying to avoid that as a person when someone's dead to say that. So it's just a thought that I had related to it.
I'm excited to get into the self-reflection section. Are you by any chance prepared for that? Or is there anything else you want to touch on pre self-reflection?
I am ready to move on to self-reflection, but I am not prepared for it.
All right. So earlier, like I took some issue with some of what you were saying about Jordan, because like what I learned from this really like it was taught to me from Jordan, and it was really like there was one specific line early on that I really really liked, and it taught me something about myself. I think it's an important lesson. So I've learned that maybe like, I don't know the best way to like word it into like a soundbite, but it's maybe that like true friendship isn't always just telling the honest truth. I really liked when they were in the post-funeral scene, and there's kind of like the judgmental moment between like the mother-in-law and everything, and then like out on the porch they're all looking at Matt, and Jordan says like, man, I don't know how he's gonna do this, and then one of them says like, will you tell him that? And he's like, nah. I liked that a lot, because it's like, like we talked about in our friend episode that we did, like a year and a half ago at this point, like we kind of like both really harped on that, like a true friend is the one that is brutally honest with you, that isn't just going to tell you what you want to hear and stuff. But it's like, I've kind of come to grow a little bit, or like, I don't know if it like grow or just change my mind a little bit, but it's like, no, sometimes like if the friend also doubts you when you're doubting yourself, and maybe what they know is like, you know what, even though maybe the most powerful thing and the best thing I can do here is kind of like tell a little white lie and say like, nah, man, you got this, like build them up, rather than being like, I am just as unsure as you right now. Like that, I don't think that's going to make the situation better. So like, I liked that to me, like taught me like sometimes it is a little more powerful and like almost a little more like beneficial to yeah, just maybe tell them not necessarily what they want to hear, but what they need to hear in that time.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the truth isn't beneficial.
Yeah.
There's sometimes where it's not really gonna help anything, or there's occasions where, like you're saying, like when doubting someone when they're doubting themselves, maybe it's a truth that they're already kind of aware of, and that maybe you don't even need to say it. But yeah, I that is a good point. I mean, that sometimes the truth isn't valuable. Sometimes it like, did you ever see the movie The Invention of Lying?
Oh yes. Yeah, dude, that's honestly one of my favorite movies ever. I love that movie.
You know what pissed me off about that movie?
What's that?
That not lying doesn't mean you have to volunteer everything.
True. Yeah, the premise of that movie is kind of like, it's not just not lying, it's like,
they volunteered information that nobody asked for in a very like kind of like not so amicable or like personable sort of way. And that's something that I guess I do remember vaguely us talking about that in that episode that we did on like our old kind of format. And that's actually something that I think I've maybe figured out over time since we've done that episode, that sometimes the truth isn't useful, that you don't need to tell it if it's not necessary. But yeah, that's a good point, man. I like that. And I think it's interesting that you got that from the movie. I think it's interesting that you got it from that character. That to me it's cool. It's something that I wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't brought it to my attention.
Yeah. What about you? What'd you learn from this?
I think for this one, there's this impression that it's the first thing in my notes actually that I didn't mention earlier. I think most of us get this impression that this is how things are gonna be. Wherever we are, that's how things are going to be. Like, I just moved into this new place. I'm gonna live in this house from now on, or this is my relationship with this person. It will never change, or I will always be friends with this individual. We get to these points where we think things are set, and a lot of it's kind of like that arrival fallacy thing. You think you get married, you have kids, you've now arrived. And you have this idea that when one good thing happens, that bad things can't happen anymore. And, it's like, I've heard a lot of married people say that, you don't get married and everything's wonderful. You get married and you just have company while everything's going completely to hell. And sometimes you haven't arrived, that thing you think is going to be the same, that relationship, that friendship, that everything can end, that the house, the job, everything, your limbs that you think are this permanent thing attached to you, things can happen. Accidents can occur, things you would never expect. And that this movie kind of shows that, and hopefully I'm not fucking up your favorite line here, but the part where Maddie says, "How come when something good happens, it always gets taken away?" That's kind of also stating it, why, and there is no reason. Shit just sucks sometimes, and you never arrive, and you never get there, and life is not problem free, and everything you think is going to be like this from now on can always change.
Well, so you get there once, but it's the last thing you ever do. The only real arrival is death. Like, that's the only moment where, like, because everything else before that, you're still growing, you're still learning, you're still changing. But
that's the only thing that has any permanence that won't change, and that is in no way a bad thing. Like, that is just, I know you're not saying it that it is a bad thing, but just to clarify, like, we're not like pessimistic nihilists. Like, that is the truth, and it's not a bad thing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. Death doesn't have to be a bad thing at all, because death is when you get to see which things live on after someone's dead, what impact they had, what things they did, what they said to who. That's when you get to see yourself when you lose somebody, how that person's existence affects things after they're gone. And that's kind of when they say that death is a beginning. That's how I think of it, as being a beginning. It's the beginning of that person's memory instead of their existence, and like what happens as a result of that memory.
I like something Lee just put in chat too. Life happens and it's never what you expect. That's a way to, it's like things are going to change, like you're talking about. You feel like you get to a point where, like, okay, I've got a handle on things. This is what I expect is going to happen, and you're going to be wrong. You're 100% going to be wrong every single time. That's what life is.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that is what life is. That sort of contradiction. Expect the unexpected. One of my favorites.
Oh my god! All right, so Snow's motto is a little more crude, but I think it's worth commenting on too. Shit happens. You either wipe it up and move on, or cake it up and sit in shit. That's true too. That's a thing.
That's the way to do it.
That may be a horrible segue, but are you ready to move on to Movie Crush?
Yes, I am ready to move on to Movie Crush.
I'm almost positive we don't have the same Movie Crush this time.
I'm pretty sure we probably don't.
I don't think we do. I did pick what I thought was like the most obvious character though. Duck number 5, the one that was always looking up at the sun. Because that duck is no. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
That's Maddie's favorite duck.
Well, that's everyone's favorite duck. But no, so for like you've made great points as to why this character is obviously not your Movie Crush, but mine obviously Lizzie or Swan. I thought she was like, I mean, first of all, the actress is gorgeous, which means the character is gorgeous as well. But I thought that like she was super cool, super personable. Like every scene she was in, I thought she just came across as having this like this personality that was just really attractive. Something that you would like. She had good banter in every way. Like all of her jokes were on point. Like, yeah, it was just something that like I thought was great. And as a single guy in his 30s with no kids, she completely crushed it at doing something that I'm gonna have to get good at if I ever want to be dating. Like she was able to meet the partner's kid and just kind of like nail that interaction and not make it awkward, you know, just like handle it in a way that was good. But so yeah, but I think like, so a lot of times for me, it's like the movie crush is, you know, someone that I would want to spend time with in reality. And like we've brought up in even a few previous movies, it's like, what's the character that wasn't able to get ruined in a certain way? Like we even like in a previous movie, it was like, well, yeah, this character was only on screen for 5 seconds and we didn't learn anything about them. But so I think that that's honestly, though, from what I've heard, one of the reasons why you didn't like this character in this is because she was too much of just that flat, like perfect almost, and for lack of a better term, where it's like literally like the right thing for every situation. But yeah.
Well, so the thing about Swan is that you know, I'm someone that reviews and talks about movies, so I always have to rage against you know, parts of movies or movie cliches that drive me up the wall.
Yeah.
And Swan, the writing for Swan's character was just manic pixie girl enough to drive me up the wall. And you know, I ranted about it for a little while in this episode. It's funny. I feel like this was just a one-sided version of when we did Awake. Like for Awake, we basically both just sat and shit talked the movie. I feel like I was the lunatic ranting the entire time. But just because I didn't like the writing and the way that the character was portrayed doesn't mean that I don't have a crush on Swan. Swan is my movie crush.
Oh, really? Okay.
I thought you were just going to go with Matt. I really did. And then when you said something about not liking the character, I was like, are you going to go with Jordan? Like, I was like, that's weird. Well, yeah, no, it was Swan mainly because exactly what you were saying. Not enough time to get ruined.
Yeah.
They portray the character as this sort of like great, nice, whatever, you know, and she's super sweet, gets along with the kid and all that. But, you know, for me, it seemed like she was only there to contribute to the next step of the story, to the potentially happily ever after thing.
True.
That's the thing that pissed me off, is how they wrote her into it. Not necessarily that I didn't like the character.
True. Yeah.
So I thought the writing was not great. But the dialogue was good. The acting was good. You know, once again, so like what we were talking about. For me, if you could have just separated it into little parts, each of the little parts was good, but put it together, I'm like, I hate this.
If this movie was just a series of like 5 to 10 minute YouTube videos, you would have loved it. But once it's edited all together, it's like, oh, now they fucked it up.
Yeah, like completely out of order over like several months.
Yep. I think they've got a new editing job on there. That would be an interesting way to release a movie. Like just like little scenes like that like, yeah, people get out of context, out of order, and then like months later you see it all together. But
and then like offer a cash prize to anybody that can figure out what order they're supposed to be in. That would be cool.
That's how you just get someone to edit it for free for you. You make it a contest where people edit it together in the order they think would be best, and they submit it as entries of the contest, and then you just got your editing job for free.
We've been talking about making a movie for a while.
You mean a series of short 5 to 10 minute YouTube videos?
We could do that. That's
actually pretty fun. Let's favorite line. You ready?
Oh yeah,
dude. So honestly, one thing I do gotta say, I think so even though you gave it a no, I do think there's a lot you did enjoy about this movie, and I feel like you thought a lot of the dialogue was good, because at least I forget if it was 2 or 3 times you thought you were referencing what would be my favorite line, which to me at least reads as like either you thought the dialogue was good or you thought I would think the dialogue was good. One or the other.
A lot of the ones that I referenced were major lines. I don't think any of the ones that I referenced were necessarily terrible lines. They weren't bad writing. So yeah, I mean, the dialogue was okay. I just wasn't So,
well, I think I went first for both like self-reflection and movie crush. So I'm gonna let you go first for favorite line then.
Okay. So this is a line from a character that I thought was not my favorite, but the character had a couple good things to say here and there. And there was one scene where I feel like the character really showed a lot of kind of emotional intelligence, especially in trying to kind of get his friend to get there emotionally and accept the fact that he was feeling the way that he was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
All he had to say was he missed her too.
That was good. I mean, but
that line, like,
did he ever come out with the cookies? We never got to find out.
Cookies.
I think he just went
cookies.
in. Yeah,
like,
there were. There were no cookies.
There were no cookies.
So my favorite line came really early in the movie, but really to me set the stage of what was going to. I mean, of course, the movie, like we talked about, it's predictable as fuck. Set the stage as what was going to happen, but I think this is a powerful line and a good lesson for like a lot of people to take. Sometimes this is how you have to treat things. You're right. No, Marion, you're right. I can't. I can't do it. But you know what? I'm gonna do it. I liked that. There are certain things where, like, literally, you know you can't. You quote unquote know you can't, but you're just gonna fucking do it. Sometimes, like, literally, the brute force of humanity is sometimes able to just like get things done that you know you're not able to do, and teach yourself that you were wrong, that you were able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good one. And I actually said something similar to that to someone recently.
Hell yeah.
Similar.
Yeah, you didn't deliver it nearly as well as Kevin Hart did, which I couldn't either. I tried, but
no, I can't even act like that when I'm being genuine.
Yeah, I know, right? Like that is crazy when you see like actors that it's like, you know that they are in a fake pretend situation and they're handling this better than you handle real life situations. Like, God damn it.
They're a better faker than I am. A reeler. Reeler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next week's movie, we are talking about the Tomorrow War. You're the one, you suggested this very recently, and all I know about it is Chris Pratt, which I think is enough.
I saw the trailer. It's a cool idea, but it's a cool idea and it's a sci-fi idea. So anytime someone has a sci-fi idea that I think is a cool idea, it's usually very, very badly executed. So I anticipate this movie is going to be terrible. But hey, Chris Pratt.
Honestly, like, I've seen him in great sci-fi roles. Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought he was. I don't know if that's really sci-fi, right? But he's in space, so I'm gonna call it sci-fi. But then, like,
it's sci-fi.
God, did you ever see him in Passengers? Him and Jennifer Lawrence in like a sci-fi movie where they're on like a spaceship. It was.
Did I see that one?
It was not great.
I don't know that I did. Oh. No, everyone told me not to.
Yeah, well, they gave a no for should you watch, and they were all right. Yeah, it was not good at all. So hopefully we're gonna land. I'm not expecting the new Guardians of the Galaxy for me, but hopefully we're gonna land somewhere north of Passengers. That's what I'm shooting for with this next one.
God.
So yeah, guys, that is gonna bring us to the. You know what? Hold on, I need to get better at this. Folks, that is going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Metacast Movie Show. If you are watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed the discussion, please hit that like button, subscribe to keep up to date, and comment below and tell us how you felt about Fatherhood.
If you think that either of us would make hot single dads, or if you want to further keep up to date or even join us as a guest on a future episode, please join our Discord. The link is in the description below. We will be live next week on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/Tyla TV.
Thanks everyone for listening, and I hope everyone has a great week.